I'm about to show you what a 2-month sports psychology process looks like. I promise it's gonna blow your minds. In this video, you will find out if I can go from an average darts player to a potential superstar.
If Alex continues to improve at the rate that he's doing, then I think he could potentially perform at a very high level.
Why you might want to invest in a sports psychologist. Can't get over how good that was last night. And also experience every up and down throughout the past 2 months. And what better place to start than where my darting journey began just 9 months ago. St Helens Darts Shop.
First time I met Alex, he come into the shop, he wanted the right darts equipment and he wanted obviously to improve on his darts. So we're going right with his technique. I just put him right from day one. And if you get the right darts equipment and you get the right advice from day one, you will improve your darts.
You see, I've got the best equipment for me and I've gained some incredible information from people like Carl and Jay Chisnell. So I can't understand why I'm not improving. My average at home is hovering around the 65 mark, but I can't seem to take that into any competition. Little did I know that this challenge would go on to have a huge impact on my darts game, hitting averages even the professionals would be happy with. After my last darts video, it was really evident to me that something I desperately need to address are my nerves. So when I received a message on Instagram from a guy claiming that he could help me, I was certainly interested. Hi mate, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for reaching out.
Hello, I'm Brandon Wright. I'm a sport and exercise psychologist in training. I primarily work in football, but also work in a range of sports on a private consultancy basis.
In terms of what you do, I've got literally no idea, so this is all pretty fresh really.
Sports psychology is a topic that is talked around widely. When you watch sports coverage, you'll always hear about aspects such as resilience, nervousness, pressure, confidence. But for the general public and professional athletes, it is still underutilized. What we know about the evidence base is it can really help achieve high performance levels.
So I have given Brandon just 60 days to work his magic with me to see if sports psychology is something that more of us should be doing. Like, I just completely crumble under the pressure. I mean, if you could help me out with that, that would be great. Genuinely, I'd put a statue outside the house of just you.
So once we had that initial conversation, we both decided that this would be a good fit for each other to work forward.
Top man, thank you very much.
You're done.
Have a good day, mate. See you later.
You too.
Well, I've seen all the great players. I've seen a lot of good players come through ourselves, through the shop, through the academy, including Luke Littler. And something all the great players have, psychologically wise, they're very good and they're mentally strong, and that cuts them out from all the other players that get upstairs nervous and things like that, and they don't have the right mentality. And you know, a lot of players are just as good, but when you see on stage, you see how focused they are, and that needs drumming in. Your Luke Littlers and things, just as soon as they get on the stage, they're absolutely focused, and the psychology side of that is very important. You simply, if you don't do it or use that skill, I suppose, you won't make it at the top level for sure.
So the first session you'll typically have with a sports psychologist is an intake interview. So the key area for this session is for the psychologist to get as much information around the client's past. What have they struggled with previously? Where are they at the moment? What are they currently experiencing? And what would they like to achieve going forward?
I almost, with everything I've ever done, I expect that every single time I step on the football pitch, rugby pitch, the golf course, when I'm standing at the oche, that I need to be hitting 180s. I need to be getting a birdie every single hole. And for me, it's always been that frustration that if I start off bad at something, it generally snowballs into me getting worse. I still got that fire in my head all the time where I'm just like, you need to be throwing good all the time. And I know that that's just unreasonable. I've only been playing for 5 months, but I don't know whether it's just because I am so driven to like try and get better at something.
You mentioned there around like sometimes when we get frustrated, and then by the sounds of it, what we'll call it is negative self-talk. So that negative self-talk comes out. If you were going over like a good performance, is that self-talk there? Is it negative or is it positive?
The other night, I picked up the darts for half an hour and I'm going, come on, you are good at darts, like boom. But then by the same token, by the end of it, because I was tired, I started almost getting worse at it. And I was then back to just square one again, where I was like, Jesus Christ, like, what are you doing? Like, come on. Like, you're better than this. You've just proven it. You've just hit 5 180s.
The skill of learning acceptance of thoughts and emotions, for me, is a fundamental part of the sessions that I'll engage with any client. You get society telling you to be positive, try and feel as good as you can. And it's also a very logical thing to do. So if we wake up one day and we've got a cold, our solution is to go to the doctors, get rid of the symptoms, get rid of the discomfort, and try and feel good again. But with psychology, that's fundamentally different, because it's extremely hard to feel confident and positive 100% of the time. And the more that we try and achieve that, the more that we're essentially potentially setting ourselves up for failure, because we know that uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, emotions are just part of human life. They're going to crop up over and over again. So we need to try and learn instead that the goal is not these thoughts and feelings. The end goal is just how we relate to them. We're not trying to get rid of them or minimize them. We're trying to live our life as effectively as possible despite feeling like this. So we'll always try and work towards accepting those thoughts and emotions rather than blocking or getting rid of them.
In general life sort of thing, when I'm just being me, I'm quite a placid person, dead down to earth, and I'm quite nice, I'd say. But then when I get into like a competitive environment, it's like I flip a switch, and for most of it, I'd say probably like 60% of that is really good. But then there is that element of like 40% of me, which is like I said, like I'll duff a chip. And then that 40% might turn into like a 50-50, like whether the round's going to be good or not, or if my dart session's going to be good or not. And then like if I continue to like beat myself up, it'd be like 60-40 negative. And it just starts, like I said, it snowballs, and I know it's happening, but I don't understand why, and I don't understand how to stop that from happening.
No, that's really good. Essentially, like, from what I can tell, is something about the competitive environment brings out these characteristics which you probably don't show in everyday life. And you know, like you said, easygoing person. So there's probably a balance to it. So in highly competitive sport, especially if we're trying to push ourselves, we don't want to be all or nothing, but at the same time, we don't want to be too easygoing. So there's about finding that middle ground.
I know I'm going to receive loads of questions from you guys wanting to know how much practice I'm putting in during this whole entire process. And ultimately, it's quite a difficult question to answer because I've got a family and also a job. But what I can tell you guys is if I can get half an hour in here or an hour in there, then that is what I'll be doing. But I won't just be throwing and trying to hit 180s all the time. I will be practicing everything that me and Brandon have spoken about within that session that week. Come on! And to continue on from that, guys, I'm going to give one of you guys a chance to win something very special later on in this video. But to give you a little clue to what that is, it's something that's behind me.
In the start of the second session, what we'll then do is I'll present back to the client a series of goals. It could be 1, 2, or 3 psychology goals that we're going to work towards in the upcoming sessions. So this will give the client and myself clarity on what we're trying to work towards, and it will also act as a measure of progress. So session on session, how are we improving? What are we referring back to? Are we constantly aligned on what it is that we're trying to work towards?
Based on the intake and the conversation we had before that meeting, these are like the ones in like gold are the 2 main overarching goals that we'll work towards across the next 30 days. So the first one is like developing openness to emotions. And then the second one is develop a values-led, process-driven mindset.
So on the second session with Alex, one of the key points that was quite prominent for me was this sensation of frustration. So he would quite often feel frustrated with his performance. That would then lead to frustration with his darts, which then decreased his darts even further, which then got into a cycle of increasing the frustration even further. So it was this downward spiral. Part of my practice is to try and make it as simple and understandable as possible. So I introduced a metaphor called the Quicksand metaphor. And this is essentially trying to get Alex to think of this in a way where, imagine he's in a pit of quicksand. Our natural reaction is to try and thrash around and struggle because it's a less than ideal situation. But we know the more we struggle, the faster we're going to sink, and the more it becomes a downward spiral. Instead, the trick is in these situations when we find ourselves in the Quicksand is to try and be psychologically flexible, accept that we're in this situation, accept that we don't want to be in it, that we're not feeling good, and instead learn to drop the struggle with these thoughts and emotions, let the frustration sit there, and the more we can try and practice this and the more we can recognize when we're in these quicksand moments, the less we're going to struggle and less we're going to go on these downward spirals.
So like you guys have just seen there, we've been working on now this analogy of quicksand, and the more you thrash about, the more angry and upset you get with your game, the worse it's going to get. It's never going to get any better. And I am a prime example of this, to be honest with you. So over the next few days, what I'm going to work on intensely is just try and, once I've thrown them darts, is not get upset. It is what it is, I can't change that. So I'm going to have a quick game now to try and implement that, because recently I've been getting really, really frustrated when I've been throwing some bad arrows. So let's get into the game now and see how well we can implement this mindset change. Come on. Come on. That's pretty good, isn't it? That is pretty good. And the whole entire game then, the only thing I had in my mind was that quicksand analogy. Just trying to not let the bad darts outweigh the good darts, because there was some incredible darts in there. But I also threw some really poor darts in the middle of the game as well. And I could have easily let that ruin my game, but I didn't. I was trying to just forget about those darts and try and just not thrash about like we've spoken about. And I've hit a 76 average. Now if I can transfer this home form on the circuit, then I don't know where we can go to, but I'm hopeful it could lead to some incredible darts. And we're still only a few weeks into this process, so fingers crossed by the end of it, I'm going to be a half-decent player. At this time, I had no idea that this would be my final high before a tough stretch. No good.
From the third session onwards, one of the things that was quite prominent with Alex was constant frustration around his performance. And we termed this hooked and unhooked. So when he's hooked, he's feeling really frustrated. We go down a downward spiral. The frustration affects his darts, which leads to more frustration. And we basically see that frustration as our whole experience. Everything that we're doing at the moment is being dictated by that frustration. Instead, what we want to try and do is learn how to unhook ourselves. So when we unhook ourselves, we realize that we're feeling the emotion of frustration. We're not going to try and let it dictate our whole experience. It's just one part of our current experience, and that way we can still have control over how we behave. One of the metaphors that was used was the cars passing on the road metaphor. So the way I asked Alex to imagine this was, he stood on the pavement and there's a busy road next to him. And sometimes the road will be really busy with cars. Sometimes there'll only be one or two cars on the road. Some will be going fast, they'll pop on the road and pop out in the distance. Sometimes there'll be a traffic jam with loads of different cars. Some will be loud, some will be quiet. And those cars represent our thoughts, feelings and emotions. So there may be some thoughts and feelings like frustration, where the car pops on the road. It's very loud, it's very slow, it takes a while for it to get off. And when we get hooked, we end up sitting in the passenger seat of that car. So the car is then in control of our behavior. It's driving us down some streets and some paths that we don't want to go down. So that might manifest itself for Alex as he's hit a few bad darts, he gets really frustrated. Next thing you know, he's just quit darts for that night. He's not playing, he's not training. And then that is us hooked on that frustration, is leading us down a path that we don't want to go down. So the skill for Alex is trying to learn when he's in the passenger seat of those cars, try and unhook himself, put himself back on the pavement and just observe these cars going forward. We're not trying to get rid of the cars, they're always going to be there, but the skill is, can we remain on the pavement and just observe the thoughts and feelings as they go by.
Right, so I've just got to the pub and if I'm being honest with you guys, I am absolutely bricking it again. This will be a real true test tonight of whether I've actually taken on board what we've been doing over the past few weeks. I've just got to keep thinking about those steps which we've been speaking about, trying to unhook from situations, and hopefully, fingers crossed, if we can take any sort of form like we've been showing at home into tonight, then it should be a lot more successful than the last video in this venue, because let's be honest, I didn't play very well last time we was here. I got 0 points. So I'm not thinking about that tonight. All I'm thinking about is trying to work on and think about what we've been doing in our sessions over the past few weeks. And if I can come away from tonight knowing that I have unhooked from a few situations, then that for me is a massive, massive success. So let's go in, let's have a few games. Fingers crossed it goes really well. I'll kind of give you a roundup after tonight, once I've played my games, to see how it's actually gone. But like I said, fingers crossed we managed to do better than last time. There you are, folks. So got through to the knockout stages, played slightly better today. First game, when it was actually pretty cool in there, average 66, so I was happy with that, really happy. And then the next few games after that, then it got really hot in there, and yeah, I was really uncomfortable. Played Jay Chisnell in the knockout stages. Fair play to Jay, he taught me a lesson, but I didn't play well. I didn't play well whatsoever. But yeah, there's lots to build on there, to be honest with you. There was times where I was trying my hardest to keep it together, but at the end there was a lot of frustration. I was boiling hot, and to be honest with you, after work today I'm shattered as well. So happy and sad also. I reacted at the end there. Yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed with myself, but there's like I said, there's lots to work on. We'll go back to the drawing board and see where we are in a week or two's time. But let's get home to bed, because I'm absolutely shattered.
So I think by session 4, myself and Alex started to work towards having a pre and post shot routine. This is really important, especially with darts. It's a very fine motor skill. So any sort of difference in power, speed, grip of the darts can really affect where it lands in the board. So the pre-shot routine essentially serves 2 purposes. One, to try and get the movement as controllable and fluid as possible, to try and help the replicability, the repeatability of the throw, and try and get it as consistent as possible. But it also was an opportunity for us to implement those psychology strategies into every time he stepped up to the oche. So we started with the pre-shot routine of trying to get the movement as fluid as possible. And then with the post-shot routine, we used this as a way to embed the cars on the road metaphor. So Alex would take a moment to reflect. Any cars showing up for him? Has he managed to stay on the pavement? Has that frustration or anger or embarrassment car drove next to him? Has he potentially got in the passenger seat with his previous throws and he's potentially about to get hooked? If Alex noticed that he was hooked, he would try and use the 5 or 10 seconds between throws to try and bring himself back to the present moment, unhook from that emotion, and then essentially going back into that next throw of a blank canvas.
Right, like I've just said to you guys earlier on in this video, I've got a prize that is extremely special, courtesy of St. Helens Dart Shop. Now, first of all, before you see the prize, I need you guys to do me a favour. I need you to head over to St. Helens Dart Shop on all of their social medias and give them a follow. Then, what I need you to do is I need you to like this video, subscribe to this channel because there's going to be some insanely good content coming this year, and then I need you to leave me a comment on your favourite darts memory. Now, what is that prize? It's a Target Omni. It's a pretty special prize, guys. Omnis are fantastic for practicing. You can do loads of games, play against your mates, and if you're no good at scoring yourself, then Bob's your uncle. If you also want to go ahead and buy one of these yourself, guys, St. Helens Dart Shop do this next day delivery. So, like I've just said, if you want to get your hands on this, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then leave a comment down below. Good luck.
So around session 7 with Alex, we built on that pre-shot routine even more. So previously he was using it as a way to check in with the cars on the road metaphor. As he'd done this for weeks now, it became a lot more unconscious for him, so he didn't need to dedicate conscious effort to try and check in with himself. So instead we replaced it with what we call instructional self-talk. So we had 2 trigger words in the pre-shot routine. So the first one was smooth. So this allowed us to focus internally on our body, try and get the movement as smooth and fluid as possible, try and get it as consistent as possible. And when you raise the dart up, we then used the cue word of 60. So one of the things that led to this cue word was Alex mentioned that he was struggling with his focus in competition. So there was a lot of external distractions, there was music, there was people, and a lot of the time he was focused on what was going on around him rather than focused on the dartboard. So this cue word 60 was a trigger word for us to narrow our attention, place it exactly on the 20 treble bed, and we're going from that external concentration and really narrowing it down on a very specific target of the board. And that was his pre-shot routine for every throw. So over the weeks, over the days, he practiced doing that shift in concentration and focus hundreds, maybe even thousands of times, so that the next time he went into a competition, it was almost second nature to try and let those distractions be there and instead laser in on that treble 20 bed.
If there's anything you're going to take away from this video, please take this bit of information I'm just about to give you guys and put it into your own practice, because I can guarantee you will improve tenfold. So what it's all about is when I'm stepping up to the oche and I'm stepping up to my mark, all I'm doing is repeating the word smooth. Sounds dead easy, doesn't it, and weird, but I promise you, when you throw smooth, that is when you're throwing at your best. So that's all I'm doing. I'm stepping up to the oche, repeating the word smooth. Not out loud, just in my head. And then once I'm looking up at the target, then I repeat the word 60. Again, dead simple. Smooth and 60. So why am I saying 60? So when I say 60 in my head, all I'm trying to do is throw them darts straight. I'm at the stage now where I feel as if I can throw my darts straight, the odd 1 or 2 potentially could go in that treble 20 bed. So therefore, I'm not trying to say to myself 100, and if I get underneath that, then I'm disappointed. 60 is a fairly easy number for us all to hit. And I can guarantee that if you try and make it a little bit easier in your own head, then when you do hit 80, 85, 100, 140s, even 180s, your mindset, well, my mindset this week has completely changed because my averages have gone completely through the roof. Granted, it is at home, it isn't in an ADC, but this week I've seen averages of 85 and I've even had a 90 average in there as well. And it's just by doing this 2-step simple process. So it's all looking good. It's going really well so far. And I can guarantee you that if you put just a percentage of what I'm learning currently into your own practice, you will get 100% better. And that is what it's all about.
So when I first started working with Alex, one of the things that really stuck out to me was he was very outcome and results orientated. So for example, he used to play football at quite a high level, and when he couldn't see himself performing at that next level up, he essentially withdrew and quit from football. He also did something similar, performed golf at a high level. There was frustration around his consistency performances and performing at a high level, and again withdrew from golf participation. So we could potentially see that with the darts route, he's made really quick progress very results and outcome orientated, very focused on the averages and competition performance. So one of the things that I worked with Alex on was almost a processed mindset shift. So we're taking the emphasis away from where the darts land in the board to try and work on the step before that, having good process goals. A successful session in darts doesn't always have to be hitting a high average. It can be refining his technique or implementing a psychology strategy. And then eventually the long-term impact of that will lead to an increased performance, or would usually lead to an increased performance. So we're trying to take a short-term shift away from results, focus on the processes instead, and hoping that will have a long-term increase on the results and outcome.
And if you guys wanted a perfect example of why sports psychology works, then that game I've just had right there is a perfect example, because I was playing shocking. I think the first two legs, well, I was 2-0 down and I was averaging about 40 something in those legs, and I was playing horrendous. And I kept to it, and in the end I've won 3-2 and I've averaged, I think, 64 in the end, but considering my first two legs were shocking, I'm so happy with that. That is why sports psychology is a must if you want to get better at this game. I promise you that. Come on, get in there. Right folks, tonight is the night whether I find out if this whole process has been worth it. I'm heading to a new venue I've never stepped foot in before. It's a place called Rogue Darts in Bolton. I could have easily gone back to the Woodies pub in St Helens, but because I know those guys now, I'm feeling a little more comfortable with my game there. So I wanted to truly test whether this process has actually helped. I'm feeling really confident going into it. Not that I'm throwing good, but I'm just feeling more at ease being out there because of the process-driven mindset, instead of it being more of a results mindset. So, fingers crossed I play some good darts. I'll keep you updated during the night, but I'm hoping that I can play some good darts for you guys and prove that this whole process was well worth it.
If you're watching along on this and you're thinking, what can I apply to my journey? I think if you take the sessions that myself and Alex have done, we went on a journey of building up Alex's awareness. So awareness of any uncomfortable thoughts, feelings and emotions, how that could potentially impact his behaviour, how it could lead to downward spirals. So the first step would be to try and build your own awareness of where this is happening in your own life. The second bit was then all about applying strategies and techniques to his performance to try and manage any of the areas that we were working on. And then the last bit was the consistency of the application, trying to apply these techniques on a daily basis to try and get the outcomes that we wanted to achieve, and then applying that to the competition setting.
So the eagle-eyed of you might know that I'm not actually giving you the updates on the night at Rogue Darts in Bolton, because when I got there, it was like a nightclub. Going into this event, I wanted to put myself under some serious pressure just to see whether this whole process has actually worked. So that's why I took myself to Rogue Darts in Bolton, somewhere I've never played before. And to say it was a success is an understatement. But moving on to the first game, I played a chap called Keel Smith, really good player. He won 4 out of 4 games in this group last night, which obviously gives you an idea that he beat me. But I went 1-0 up. Ultimately, how was I feeling on the night? I was actually really nervous for this first game. Like I said to you guys yesterday, I've never played in this venue before. I didn't know any of the guys there. And because it was unfamiliar surroundings, it was easier to sort of be nervous. But saying that, I did go 1-0 up. We both played really well in that first leg. We both hit 180s. So there was some really good darts being thrown. However, in the second and third legs, for some reason, I just couldn't hit the treble 20 as frequently as what Keel was doing. And ultimately, that's what led to him winning. I actually played really steady, to be honest with you. My first 9 dart average in that game was 77.67. I'll put all this information on the screen right now. And then my overall average was 62.18. So it gives you an idea that, you know, I was missing sort of doubles as well. So that was no good. But I was happy with that first game in a new venue. To be beaten 2-1 by somebody who actually won the group, I was really happy with that. Moving on to my second game of darts in this venue. And to be honest with you, I'm still absolutely buzzing from this game. I averaged 85.89. I played so well. I played a lovely woman called Claire Howard. And to be fair, she played really well as well for herself, and she was dead happy with it. She came over talking after the game as well, so lovely to meet Claire. But I was absolutely ruthless in that game. I do apologise, Claire. My second leg was ruthless. 41, 85, 100, 133, 134 to leave 8, and I pinned it first dart. It was just a fantastic game of darts from me, to be honest with you. And I'm hoping in future that because of this more process driven, before I've thrown a dart, you know, where I stand on the oche, you know, what I'm saying to myself in my own head before I throw a dart, that it's going to lead to more darts like this. Because if I can throw darts like this, then who knows where we can get to in the game. I don't know. I've no idea. That's the exciting part of this game. Now, leading on from game 2, game 3 was sort of a weird game, to be honest with you, because I averaged 68. But again, I was at this point, I was feeling really good. You know, obviously, I've just had the game of my life in person with 85. So I was feeling really confident. And to be honest with you, I carried on that really good play. You know, constantly hitting sort of treble 20s and stuff like that. In the first leg, it did take me a little while to check out 10. I kind of missed it a few times, which ultimately dragged my average down by quite a bit. But my second leg was incredible. Now I'm going to input all of my throws in this second leg because I think you guys need to see this. My first throw was 41, pretty average, right? 60 was my next one to leave 400. Now this is where something absolutely special happened. And if I can do this more often than not, then you're going to see me on that stage one day. You're going to see me on that stage one day because my next 9 darts from 400 down was ridiculous. So I went a ton, good, happy with that, to leave 300. Then I pinned a 180 to leave the Shanghai finish 120. And then I absolutely nailed it. And I was just like, when I pinned it inside, I was like jumping around sort of thing, dead happy. Something I've never ever done before is like from 400 down is a 9 darter. At home I've had sort of like some really good legs, but again at home it's a lot easier to play. If any of you guys play in the ADCs, you will know that when you're playing at home it's a different kettle of fish than when you're playing in an ADC. I'm not too sure I'll play sort of a leg of darts or 400 down that well ever again. Maybe I will, who knows, but yeah, I was absolutely buzzing off of that one. Now the final game of the night was a winner takes all. Whoever won out of me and Harvey got through to the knockout stages. Now I actually know Harvey from St Helens Darts Academy, so I know he's a really good player. So going into the match, I wasn't confident, but again, I was just trying to go through the process and just stick to what I'm good at, you know, just trying to score as well as I can and hopefully take some of the form of my last game into this game. And Harvey started off great. He started off with a 1-2-1. I started off with 2 steady 60s and then a 1-2-5. So we were kind of level pegging at this point. And then sort of like later on in the first leg, you know, Harvey hit a 95 and then he took out 52. So we went 1-0 up. But we're both kind of playing relatively okay at this point. The next leg is where sort of Harvey just he took it up a level, the lad. You know, hitting 90, 100, 140, and then eventually taking out the 20 to win 2-0. So fair play to him. And actually Harvey went on to actually win the night. So I'm not upset by that. You know, the 2 games I've lost, the guy who topped the group and the guy who actually went on to actually win the night. So I'm super happy with what actually happened last night. And in terms of the process as a whole, do I think that it's made a difference within my game? I think it's evident. I think it's evident with my results, with how I'm scoring, how I'm coming away from the tournaments. And I'm not frustrated anymore. Like, I used to get really frustrated or upset and embarrassed with how I performed. Whereas yesterday, I was in a venue I've never been to before, and I was so happy. I came out of there and I was just buzzing. I did 2 things in there yesterday I thought I would never do, ever, let alone, you know, if I've been playing for years. And I've done it in such a short amount of time of playing darts. So I'm made up with my performance last night. And not only am I made up with my performance, to some extent, I'm made up for Brandon. He was the person who put his neck on the line originally. He said that he thinks he could help me, and I was very sort of, yeah, all right, I've tried all this stuff before. The lad did absolute wonders. Like, genuinely, if you want to find out more about this sort of thing, what I'll do is I'll put some links to his bios. If you want to message him, speak to him, if you want to go through a process like I've been through with Brandon, then I'm pretty sure he would be absolutely well up for doing it. And just a little disclaimer on the side as well, this was my process. Brandon tailored this whole process to me as a person, and he will do exactly the same for you. And finally, if you've liked this video, please subscribe to the channel. It'll help me more than you guys know. If you haven't entered the competition yet, get entering. I will leave all the details in the description below. But until next time, guys, see ya!